I'm going to try to make this video brief as possible, man, because I'm getting a little tired. Going to call it a night. But I want to say that Phil Jackson is a slick motherfucker, all right? He's very slick, man. I think that if there's any person who Phil Jackson shares some personality traits with, it'll be Bill Clinton. He's very personable with the media. He is likable. He's a very quotable guy. He knows how to sell himself very well. But, and this goes back to his days with Chicago, and I liked Phil Jackson back then, but I remember reading about how behind the scenes he was a very crafty, a very manipulative person, two-faced to an extent, agenda-driven, and he could be very, very spiteful. This is the side of Phil Jackson that Jerry Krause, who is public enemy number one with Chicago, probably still to this day, that's the side of Phil Jackson that Jerry Krause used to see, and to a lesser extent, Jerry Reinsdorf. I thought I was going to make this video brief, didn't I? I just can't do it, guys. I'm just a fucking guy that I just got to fucking talk, man. Anyway, as successful as Phil Jackson it was as a coach, and he was the most successful coach of all time, you've never heard me say this on video, say he was the greatest coach. I always say he's the most successful. But I just never could put him up there with the Red Holtzmans and the Red Auerbachs and the Larry Browns and the Pat Rileys, and the Dr. Jack Ramseys. I just never could put him up there with that particular group. Because when you have, for 6 championships, one player who's seen as arguably the greatest player of all time, and another player, a top 35 all-time player in my opinion, and on the second team with 5 NBA championships, a center who is seen as roughly a top 10 all-time player, and a shooting guard who is seen, in my estimation at least, a top 15 all-time player. Some people have him higher than that. How can you not win? And the one thing that really burns me with the way that the media has been treating Phil Jackson with kid gloves is the fact that 10 years ago, Isaiah Thomas in the same role was vilified. Vilified. Perhaps rightfully so. But he was vilified for having a horrible tenure in his position as president of basketball operations. They didn't do well at all. They were really bad. And while the Knicks are marginally more competitive now than they were back then, the Knicks, through the halfway portion of the season, far past halfway, would have to go on some type of surge the second half of the season to get into playoff contention. It's not looking good right now. It's not looking good at all. And I think that Phil Jackson, going back to the earlier part of my video, the reason why I think he's a clever bastard is because he's trying to create the perception that the reason why the team has taken a step backwards, because you got to remember, a couple of years ago they won 17 games. Last year they won 32 games. The expectations were that this team was going to win at least 45 to 50 games this year and make the playoffs. That seems very unlikely now. To keep the heat off of him, he's trying to make the perception that, everything's Carmelo Anthony's fault. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Carmelo Anthony is one of the most overrated players to an extent of all time. When I say overrated, you have some people who are uneducated about what that word means. They think when you say overrated that you suck. I didn't say that. I said he's overrated in the sense that he's compared to a LeBron James and a Kobe Bryant and a Dwayne Wade as far as his generation is concerned. And he's none of these guys. Carmelo Anthony is good, but he's not on their level. But having said that, this isn't all Carmelo Anthony's fault as far as the reasons why the Knicks suck. Okay? Phil Jackson has failed in his position as president of basketball operations. I don't want to hear any excuses for why he's failed, because when you're in those positions, excuses don't matter. Okay? He has not been successful. All right? 2 years into his tenure, the Knicks are stalled. And I believe he's nearing the halfway portion of his contract. And it doesn't look like he'll be able to go back to the team that he really wanted to go to, which is the Lakers, because his relationship with Jeannie Buss ended pretty messily, from what I understand. Magic Johnson has been hired, and I have a very strong feeling that Magic Johnson is going to send that team on the way to past former glory. If not championships, they're going to be to a portion where they're a playoff caliber team. But Phil Jackson has failed in his role. And going back to Isaiah Thomas, he may not have been a winner, but in his role as head coach, which came a little bit after, I think, in his role as head coach, you've never seen Isaiah Thomas or whatever antagonize a player on his team. Why would you antagonize Carmelo Anthony? It doesn't make any sense. Because you're trying to save your own ass and put all the heat on Carmelo, which the media has eaten up very eagerly. But in conclusion, I just want to say this. Phil Jackson has failed, okay? He's failed in his role. He was a great all-time head coach, as Isaiah Thomas was a great all-time player in his position. But both men have been subpar, if not failures. Actually, they've been failures as NBA executives. But the media only will eagerly say that about one of the guys. Phil Jackson gets, well, we have to wait and see. Well, we have to wait and see. Well, I mean, look, it's been 2 years. And what I've seen is mediocrity, which is one of the things I've always, kind of wondered about Phil Jackson is if you put him on a team where the talent level is marginal, it's very, very marginal, and you run into a group of players who are of a generation where all of that Zen shit doesn't work as well, where is his coaching skills? Or where are his leadership qualities, his leadership skills? All right? Where's his executive panache? I saw something recently said that other NBA executives think that Phil Jackson is crazy. Why the hell would you antagonize your best player by far? Now, the one good thing I think Phil Jackson did do, and I give him credit, is bringing in Porzingis. All right? That was great. Phil's always had an eye, in my opinion, for big men who could shoot. And certain players like that. But other than that, Phil Jackson has not been successful in his role. But that's just my opinion, guys. Tell me what you guys think.